It was a cool October evening in Fairfax County, Virginia, the kind of twilight where the amber glow of the sky met the hum of the suburbs settling into night. FBI Director Charles E. Maddox, a well-respected African-American man in his late 50s, was driving home after delivering a keynote address at a national symposium on cybersecurity. Dressed in a tailored navy suit, his ID badge still clipped to his inside pocket, Maddox exhaled with fatigue and satisfaction. His SUV glided down Route 123, the radio low, reflecting on his speech. As the top federal law enforcement official in the country, Maddox was no stranger to danger. But he never expected that the most harrowing moment of his month would come not from a terrorist threat or cyber attack, but from a routine traffic stop. As he passed through a quiet intersection, red and blue lights flashed behind him. Initially assuming it to be a routine issue, a broken tail light perhaps, he pulled over calmly. But what unfolded next would set off a firestorm that rippled through the ranks of law enforcement and ignited a national conversation about race, power, and the fragility of perception. Officer Travis Klinger, a young white police officer with just under 4 years of service in the department, had been on patrol in the area. He noticed Maddox's black SUV and, according to his later testimony, believed the vehicle matched the description of a car linked to a recent armed robbery. Without waiting for backup or running a thorough plate check, Klinger initiated the stop. His bodycam would later show him approaching the vehicle with his weapon already drawn, barking orders at the driver. "Hands where I can see them! Out of the car, now!" Maddox, stunned, complied, but tried to explain. "I'm Director Maddox, FBI. My credentials are in my inner pocket. Please, lower your weapon." Klinger did not relent. The moment escalated rapidly. Maddox, a man who had briefed presidents and directed counter-terrorism operations, found himself face down on the pavement, cuffed and held at gunpoint by a visibly nervous officer who had made no attempt to confirm the identity of the man he had just detained. For over 10 agonizing minutes, Maddox lay there, silent, cold, and humiliated, until a second officer arrived, recognized him immediately, and intervened in a panic. The second officer, a seasoned veteran named Carla Martinez, immediately de-escalated the situation. She ordered Klinger to lower his weapon and remove the cuffs. As she helped Maddox to his feet, her face went pale. "Sir, I'm so sorry. Director Maddox, this is a mistake." Maddox, brushing himself off, said little. He looked directly at Klinger, who was now realizing the gravity of his actions. Maddox's voice was calm but firm. "I need both of your badge numbers. This will be reported." Martinez tried to apologize again, but Maddox simply walked to his vehicle, retrieved his phone, and made a call. Within minutes, a cluster of unmarked federal vehicles surrounded the scene. A tense silence fell over the area. Maddox filed a formal complaint on the spot. Officer Klinger was taken aside by Internal Affairs, while Martinez was asked to give a sworn statement. The situation was extraordinary. A high-ranking federal official manhandled by a local patrol officer. The Fairfax police chief was notified within the hour, and the mayor was briefed by sunrise. By morning, the story had leaked to the press. News of the incident exploded across media platforms. The headlines were incendiary. FBI director held at gunpoint by local police. Racial profiling at the highest level, when authority fails to recognize authority. The country was already reeling from a long summer of racial tension and police misconduct cases. Protests had simmered in many cities, but this event, so stark in its irony, so undeniable in its recording, hit differently. Social media erupted. Hashtags like "Cow Director While Black" and "Quash Badge Against Badge" trended globally. Prominent civil rights leaders demanded immediate accountability. Political figures from both sides of the aisle issued statements, some calling for restraint, others for justice. For many, the incident underscored what they had long suspected, that no level of success, power, or prestige could shield a black man from the deep-seated biases embedded in American policing. If the FBI director could be mistaken for a criminal because of his skin color, what chance did an average black citizen have? The FBI, typically reserved in public matters, released a rare and strongly worded statement. "We are appalled by the treatment of Director Maddox during a traffic stop last evening. We will pursue all appropriate channels to ensure accountability and to prevent future incidents of this nature." Director Maddox, meanwhile, refrained from public comment. But inside the Bureau, he was resolute. He ordered an internal task force to coordinate with the DOJ's Civil Rights Division. He pushed for a full investigation, not only into Klinger's actions, but into broader patterns of racial profiling in the Fairfax Police Department. This wasn't about one man or one mistake. It was about systemic failure. And he intended to use the weight of his office to challenge it. Klinger was suspended pending investigation, but the outrage didn't abate. Civil rights attorneys pointed to his bodycam footage, which showed clear signs of escalation, poor judgment, and failure to follow protocol. Community activists held daily demonstrations outside the precinct, holding signs that read, "Accountability starts at the top," and "Your badge doesn't make you right." Fairfax County's black residents, in particular, voiced long-standing grievances with the department, now brought to a head. Under immense pressure, the Fairfax County DA announced that a grand jury would be convened to determine whether criminal charges would be filed against Klinger. Maddox did not personally attend the proceedings, but submitted a detailed statement through his legal team, recounting the incident and its lasting emotional toll. In court, the case against Klinger moved swiftly. Prosecutors laid out a damning narrative: the failure to properly identify the suspect vehicle, the unprovoked weapon draw, and the use of excessive force against a cooperative individual. Defense attorneys argued that Klinger feared for his life and made a split-second decision in line with department guidelines. But bodycam footage, Maddox's professional background, and a pattern of prior complaints against Klinger painted a different picture. Several officers testified that Klinger had a history of aggressive stops, particularly involving black motorists. The jury was diverse and attentive, visibly shaken by the footage. After deliberation, they returned a verdict of guilty on charges of aggravated assault under color of law and unlawful detention. Klinger was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. The judge, while acknowledging the difficulty of police work, condemned the reckless disregard for constitutional rights and the racially biased assumptions that guided the officer's actions. Outside the courthouse, the response was mixed. Some saw justice served. Others, particularly in law enforcement circles, feared that the conviction would create a chilling effect on proactive policing. But for Maddox, the outcome was less about personal vindication and more about precedent. The message was clear. No officer, regardless of intention, could violate a citizen's rights, especially when rooted in bias, and expect impunity. In the aftermath, the Department of Justice opened a pattern or practice investigation into the Fairfax County Police Department. Findings revealed disturbing trends: disproportionate stops of black drivers, lack of diversity in leadership, and a culture that subtly encouraged racial profiling under the guise of proactive policing. Recommendations included sweeping reforms, new training protocols, the establishment of a civilian oversight board, and a mandatory bodycam review program. Fairfax PD, under a new chief, pledged compliance, but trust would take longer to rebuild. Director Maddox returned to his duties, but the incident marked a turning point in his leadership. He launched a nationwide initiative called Equal Under Law, aimed at bridging the gap between federal and local law enforcement and addressing racial bias head-on. The program included town halls, mandatory anti-bias training for federal agents, and collaborative workshops between FBI field officers and municipal police. He appeared on national television not to recount his trauma, but to highlight the opportunity it presented. "If we don't learn from this," he said, "we are doomed to repeat it." Behind closed doors, Maddox struggled. The trauma of that night, of lying on the cold pavement, gun to his head, lingered. He began attending therapy, encouraged by close colleagues. His wife, Olivia, a university professor, became his quiet anchor, helping him navigate both public responsibility and private vulnerability. His children, grown and educated, told him how the incident changed their view of the country. "Dad, if it happened to you, it could happen to anyone," his son remarked. That truth haunted Maddox, but also strengthened his resolve. He had faced institutional failure and lived. Now he would fight it with every tool at his disposal. Meanwhile, the story continued to echo across the country. Activist groups used the Maddox incident as a rallying cry for broader reforms. Police departments in several states began re-evaluating traffic stop policies and implemented additional de-escalation training. Think tanks produced policy papers analyzing the socio-political impact of the case. Maddox was invited to testify before Congress, where he spoke candidly about what it meant to wear two skins, one as a symbol of federal authority, the other as a black man in America. His words were quoted widely. "Until every badge respects every life, our justice system remains incomplete." Officer Klinger from prison gave a single interview. He expressed regret, but stopped short of taking full responsibility. "I didn't know who he was," he said. "It wasn't about race, it was about safety." Critics dismissed the statement as deflection, but some within law enforcement circles sympathized. It exposed the deep divide in American policing, a chasm between intention and impact, between perceived danger and actual behavior. Klinger's case became a case study in police academies nationwide, serving both as a cautionary tale and a conversation starter. By the second anniversary of the incident, public memory had begun to fade, but the changes it sparked were still unfolding. Fairfax County had seen a decline in racial complaints against police. The DOJ had launched similar investigations in other cities. Maddox, now nearing retirement, reflected on his career with both pride and weariness. He had faced terror cells, espionage threats, and cybercrime empires, but none of them struck at his identity like that traffic stop. And yet, he remained hopeful. "The road is long," he told a graduating class of FBI recruits, "but every step toward justice is worth the struggle." The night he was pulled over remained etched in his memory, not just as a personal indignity, but as a moment of national reflection. For Maddox, it was never just about what happened to him. It was about what the moment revealed. That even in the highest office, prejudice could reach through tinted windows and flashing lights to remind a man of the color of his skin. But it also revealed something more enduring, the power of accountability, the possibility of change, and the importance of using pain as fuel for progress. In the story of director Charles Maddox, America found both a caution and a challenge to confront its deepest flaws, not with denial, but with the courage to build something better. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you found this content meaningful, click like and subscribe so you won't miss the next powerful story. Tomorrow, we'll bring you another that matters.